Let me describe a couple. They make $148,000 a year. Nice house, 2 cars, 2 degrees, 2 careers. From the outside, they look like they made it. From the inside, they're one layoff away from panic, one medical bill away from credit card debt, one daycare increase away from fighting about money at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. How does a household making nearly $150,000 feel financially fragile? And here's the scary part. They did not do anything wrong. Today, I am going to show you the invisible system that is quietly draining dual-income households and how to escape it. Because this isn't about budgeting. It's about structure. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. We were told something our entire lives. Study hard, get the degree, get the job, marry someone ambitious. Build together 2 incomes. That's the dream. And logically, it makes sense. If one income supports a family, 2 incomes should create abundance, security, breathing room, vacations without stress, retirement accounts maxed out, college funds fully loaded. That's the promise. But here's what nobody warned us about. When everyone upgraded to 2 incomes, the economy upgraded its prices. Let me explain. Imagine a neighborhood in the 1980s. Most families had one primary earner. Homes were priced based on one income beating power. Now fast forward. 2 engineers, 2 corporate managers, 2 nurses, 2 professionals, all shopping for the same houses, but now they have double the qualifying power. What happens? Prices don't stay the same. They rise to match the new ceiling. And suddenly, 2 incomes aren't a competitive advantage. They're the entry requirement. That's the first illusion. And it doesn't stop at housing. Childcare became institutionalized because if both parents work, someone else must raise the kids during the day. So childcare costs exploded. Then schools became tied to property values. So parents bid up homes in good districts. Healthcare costs ballooned. Insurance premiums rose. College tuition soared. And every time income rose, the baseline cost of participating in middle-class life rose with it. We didn't get richer. The bar just moved higher. Here's the psychological twist. When your household income hits 6 figures, you expect to feel secure. Because $120,000 sounds wealthy. $150,000 sounds successful. But security isn't about income. It's about surplus. And if your expenses rise at the same speed as your income, you're not advancing. You're running on a treadmill, working harder, making more, but staying in the same place. That's why so many couples say, we make too much money to feel this broke. It's not because they're irresponsible. It's because the system silently recalibrated around dual incomes. And once that recalibration happened, going back feels impossible. Now here's where it gets dangerous. When both incomes become normal, banks qualify you based on both incomes. Realtors show you homes based on both incomes. Dealerships approve loans based on both incomes. Your lifestyle gets built on both incomes. And once that happens, you are no longer a 2-income household. You're a one-structure household that requires 2 incomes to survive. That's a very different thing. And most people don't realize the difference until something breaks. So the real question isn't, is 2 incomes better than 1? The real question is, did the second income create freedom or dependency? Because those are not the same. Let's zoom in, because this is where the illusion gets exposed. And in the next section, I am going to show you exactly where that second income actually goes and why it disappears faster than you think. Let's zoom in, because this is where the illusion gets exposed. Imagine a couple. She earns $82,000. He earns $68,000. Combined income, $150,000. That number sounds powerful. When you say it out loud, $150,000, it feels like success. But gross income is a headline. Real life happens in the fine print. So let's slow this down. First, taxes. Federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security, Medicare, depending on the state, that $150,000 quickly becomes around $108,000 to $112,000 take home. Let's call it $110,000 for simplicity. Now divide that by 12. That's about $9,100 per month. Still sounds solid, right? Now let's build a completely normal middle-class life. Not luxury, not yachts, just normal. Mortgage in a decent school district, 340 a month. That's $40,800 per year. We're down to about $5,700 per month left. Childcare for one child, national average can easily hit $1,500 per month. Now we're down to $4,200. Health insurance premiums and out-of-pocket costs. Let's say $1,000 per month averaged out. Now we're at $3,200. 2 vehicles, not luxury, just reliable mid-range cars. Payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, $1,200 per month combined. Now we're at $1,000. Groceries for a family, $900 per month. Utilities, internet, phones, $500 per month. We're down to $600. That's $600 left. Before, clothing, home repairs, birthday gifts, subscriptions, kids' activities, unexpected expenses, travel to see family, medical surprises, car breakdowns, $600. That's the wealth cushion of a $150,000 household. And that's being conservative. Now, here's what most people don't realize. That extra $600 per month, that's $7,200 per year. One HVAC failure can wipe that out. One emergency room visit can wipe that out. One job interruption can wipe that out instantly. So while the income sounds large, the margin is tiny. And margin is what determines security, not income. Margin. Why does it feel even tighter than this math suggests? Because dual income households face hidden costs that single income households don't. Convenience spending. When both partners are exhausted, time becomes scarce. Scarcity increases spending. You order delivery instead of cooking. You hire help instead of doing it yourself. You outsource tasks because energy is limited. Not because you're irresponsible, because you're tired. Time poverty creates money leakage. And it's subtle. It's the $40 here, the $80 there, the $200 grocery overspend, because no one meal prepped. Over a year, that can quietly eat another 8, 12, 000. Now your margin is in $7,200. It's negative, and here's the psychological trap. You still feel like you're high income, because your gross income says $150,000. Your LinkedIn says senior manager. Your neighbors drive similar cars. Your lifestyle looks stable, but inside, you feel tight, anxious, stretched. You avoid checking the bank ATP before payday. You hope nothing breaks. You delay investing because we'll start next year. This is what I call income illusion. It's when your lifestyle expanded faster than your safety net. And because everything looks fine externally, you don't realize how fragile it is internally. Now imagine something simple. What if one income stopped tomorrow? Even temporarily. Layoff, burnout, medical leave, family emergency. The structure collapses, not because the couple failed, but because the entire financial design required both engines running at full speed. That's not wealth. That's a high-speed treadmill. And if one foot slips, you don't slow down. You fall. In the next section, I'm going to explain why this fragility isn't random. It's structural. And once you see the structural flaw, you can design around it. Why does it feel even tighter than this math suggests? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The real issue isn't income, it's exposure. Let me explain. Most dual income households are operating at 100% capacity. Both adults working, both schedules packed, both paychecks already assigned to bills before they arrive. There is no idle engine, no spare tire, no emergency lever to pull. It's like flying a plane with just enough fuel to land, assuming perfect weather. And life is never perfect weather. Think about this for a second. If both incomes are required just to maintain your current lifestyle, then neither income is optional. And if neither income is optional, then you don't have financial security. You have financial dependency. That's a massive psychological difference. Security means, if something happens, we'll adjust. Dependency means, if something happens, we collapse. Most people don't feel broke. They feel trapped. That trapped feeling, it comes from zero margin. Let's talk about margin in simple terms. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what you need, not what you spend, what you must spend to survive. Mortgage, insurance, debt, food, utilities. minimum obligations. If those fixed costs require two incomes, you're running without a safety net. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. Because the trap isn't just financial, it's emotional. When both partners must work full-time to sustain the structure, you eliminate flexibility in every other area of life. Burned out, can't step back, want to start a business, too risky, need to care for aging parents, financial pressure, child struggling and needs more attention, no bandwidth, health scare, immediate panic. The absence of margin doesn't just restrict money, it restricts choice, and choice is freedom. Here's something subtle but powerful. In older one-income households, the second adult wasn't earning income, but they were protecting optionality. They were holding the reserve card. If something went wrong, they could enter the workforce. That option itself created resilience. Today, that reserve is already deployed. There is no second wave, no backup quarterback. You're playing the entire season with your starters on the field every single game. No rotation, no rest, and when fatigue sets in, mistakes happen. And here's the irony. Dual income households often look more successful externally. Better home, newer cars, higher income bracket. But internally, they're more fragile. They're more fragile than a modest single-income household that built margin first. Because fragility isn't about appearances. It's about shock absorption. Ask yourself this. If one income disappeared tomorrow, how long before serious damage happens? 3 months? 2? 30 days? That answer tells you more about your financial health than your salary ever will. Now, let's take it deeper. Why don't people notice this earlier? Because nothing feels wrong when both paychecks are flowing. Bills are paid. Lifestyle maintained. Vacations still happen occasionally. It feels stable. But stability built on continuous dual income isn't stability. It's balance. And balance requires constant motion. The second one income stops, the balance disappears. That's why layoffs feel catastrophic even in high-income homes. It's not just lost income. It's structural exposure. And here's the quiet stress nobody talks about. When both incomes are required, both partners carry pressure. Unspoken pressure. You can't afford to hate your job. You can't afford to burn out. You can't afford to walk away from toxic work environments. Because the mortgage depends on you. The health insurance depends on you. The daycare depends on you. That pressure builds. And financial stress becomes relationship stress. Not because of irresponsibility, but because there is no slack in the system. Let me say something clearly. This is not about blaming dual income families. It's about recognizing design flaws. Most couples didn't choose fragility. They chose progress. But progress without margin creates vulnerability. And vulnerability without awareness creates anxiety. So here's the shift. Instead of asking, how can we earn more? Start asking, how can we reduce required income? That question alone changes everything. Because when required income drops, margin appears. And when margin appears, options return. And when options return, stress decreases. Not because income skyrocketed, but because dependency declined. In the next section, we are going to look at the bidding war effect and how dual income normalization quietly inflated the very costs that now trap families. Because once you understand that, you stop blaming yourself and you start redesigning the system. Now let's zoom out. Because this isn't just about your household. It's about what happens when millions of households make the same shift at the same time. When two-income families became the norm, the market adjusted. Not slowly, aggressively. Let's start with housing. In a one-income era, homes were priced around what one income could afford. Banks approved mortgages based on one primary earner. Developers built homes sized for that reality. Now imagine overnight. Households effectively double their qualifying power. 2 engineers, 2 managers, 2 professionals, all competing for the same limited housing supply. What happens? Prices rose not because homes became better, but because buyers could borrow more. When everyone has more purchasing power, the baseline price adjusts upward. It's not greed, it's math. And here's the key insight. When dual incomes become standard, single incomes become uncompetitive. In many cities today, a single income household simply cannot compete in the housing market. Not because they're irresponsible, but because they are outbid. That's the bidding war effect. You didn't get richer. The price of entry just doubled. Now, let's talk about school districts. This is where it becomes even more subtle. Public schools in the U.S. are largely funded by property taxes. That means higher home values, more funding, better schools. Parents want good schools, so they compete for homes in high-performing districts. Two-income families can bid more, so home prices in those areas surge. And now, Access to free public education requires a $450,000 mortgage instead of $220,000. You are not paying tuition, but you're paying a housing premium. Education didn't get more expensive directly. Access to good education did. That's the quiet shift. Childcare followed the same pattern. In a one-income household, childcare was optional. In a two-income household, it's mandatory. When something becomes mandatory, it becomes priced accordingly. And because demand exploded, costs rose. Now childcare isn't a luxury. It's a structural expense. You can't remove it without removing one income, which means once you enter the system, you're locked in. Healthcare, same dynamic. Employer-based coverage assumes stable employment. If both partners work, you may have dual premiums, deductibles, or higher tier plans. Healthcare inflation has outpaced wage growth for decades, but because dual incomes increased gross earnings, the system absorbed it. Again, the second income didn't create margin. It created a new ceiling for costs. And here's where it gets psychologically heavy. Nobody sat down and decided this. No meeting, no conspiracy. Just millions of rational decisions interacting. Families trying to get ahead. Banks approving based on total income. Developers pricing based on borrowing capacity. School districts funded by property values. Each decision makes sense individually, but collectively, they inflate the cost of normal life. That's how systems work. And here's the emotional punch. You're not behind because you failed. You're stretched because the baseline moved. Your parents bought a home on one income. You need two. Your grandparents saved while raising 3 kids. You're struggling with one. Not because you're worse with money, but because the economic playing field recalibrated, and most people never realized it happened. This is why high-income couples feel confused. They compare themselves to the past. We make more than our parents did. Yes, but you're competing in a different pricing environment. You're playing the same game, on a harder difficulty level. And here's the most important insight of all. When costs rise to match two incomes, reducing to one income feels impossible because your fixed costs were sized in a competitive market built for earners. The system nudges you toward permanent dual income dependency, not through force, through pricing pressure. That's the bidding war effect. It's not about overspending, it's about collective escalation. Everyone raised their income, so everything raised its price, and nobody actually gained ground. Now here's the powerful shift. Once you understand that the system inflates to your earning power, you stop trying to win by earning more. You start trying to win by reducing structural exposure. Because if the market adjusts upward with every income increase, then freedom doesn't come from climbing faster. It comes from needing less. In the next section, we're going to talk about exactly how to design your life differently, so you can step outside the bidding war instead of financing it. Now we shift from diagnosis to design. Because awareness without strategy just creates anxiety. So here's the core principle. You don't escape the trap by earning more. You escape the trap by lowering the income required to survive. That's it. Everything flows from that. Step 1. Build a one-income foundation. This is the structural reset. Ask one powerful question. If one of us stopped working tomorrow, what would immediately collapse? List those things. Mortgage, car payments, childcare, debt, subscriptions, lifestyle costs. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Your fixed expenses should ideally be survivable on one income. Not comfortably, not luxuriously, but survivable. That means mortgage or rent what one salary can realistically support, no lifestyle obligations that require both incomes permanently debt aggressively You're not designing for comfort. You're designing for resilience, because resilience creates peace. Step 2. Separate survival income from freedom income. Right now, most households treat both incomes as survival income. That's the trap. Instead, mentally divide your money into 2 categories. Income number 1 covers living. Income number 2 should primarily go toward emergency fund, 6-12 months of expenses, high interest, debt elimination, retirement, investing, 401k, II, etc. Taxable investments, long-term wealth building, not bigger house, not newer car, not lifestyle expansion. The second income is your leverage engine. When you spend it on lifestyle upgrades, you convert leverage into liability. When you invest it, you convert income into freedom. Step 3. Cap lifestyle expansion. Here's a rule that changes everything. When income rises, lock in only 20-30 for lifestyle upgrades. Invest the rest, because lifestyle inflation is silent. You don't wake up and decide to inflate your life.
It happens gradually. Better neighborhood,
Slightly nicer car, more dining out, private lessons for kids, convenience upgrades. Each one feels reasonable, but together they permanently raise your required income. And required income is the enemy of flexibility. Step 4. Build shock absorption. Remember what we said earlier. Security isn't about income.
it's about shock absorption.
Here's what shock absorption looks like. 6 minus 12 months emergency savings, low debt to income ratio, 1 paid off vehicle. Disability insurance, strong retirement contributions, investments outside retirement accounts. The goal isn't luxury.
The goal is calm.
When an unexpected bill arrives, you don't panic, you adjust.
That emotional difference is massive.
Step 5. Redefine what ahead means. This is the mindset shift most people never make.
You're not behind because your house is smaller.
You're not behind because your car is older.
You're ahead when you can survive a job loss. You can say no to a toxic boss. You can take unpaid leave. If needed, you can pivot careers without fear. You can help family without destabilizing your home. That's wealth, not square footage.
Not income bragging rights. Optionality.
What happens after 5 to 8 years? This is the part most people underestimate.
If you consistently invest the majority of one income,
Compound growth starts working quietly.
5 years in, you have a serious emergency cushion. 7 years in,
Investment growth begins contributing meaningfully. 10 years in, you may no longer need two incomes. That's when the power dynamic changes. You go from "we have to work" to "we choose to work." That shift alone reduces stress dramatically. The hard truth: this approach requires sacrifice early.
you will drive past homes you technically qualify for, watch friends upgrade faster,
Feel temporarily behind. But here's what they won't see: your balance sheet strengthening, your stress declining, your optionality expanding. You're building quiet strength, and quiet strength compounds.
The real escape isn't quitting a job tomorrow. It's designing a life where quitting is possible.
Even if you never do,
Because freedom isn't about leaving.
it's about not being trapped. And once your required income drops below your actual income,
The trap loosens, the pressure decreases, the anxiety fades.
and you stop feeling like one broken transmission away from chaos. In the final section, I want to leave you with a perspective shift that reframes everything, because this conversation isn't really about money. It's about control.
And control changes how you experience your entire life. Let me leave you with something bigger than numbers.
This conversation isn't really about dual incomes. It's about control.
Because when your lifestyle requires every dollar you earn,
You lose control. You can't slow down.
you can't pivot,
You can't rest.
you can't take risks.
You can't step back. You are economically productive, but strategically fragile.
And fragility creates stress.
Not because you're irresponsible, but because you have no room to breathe. Here's the truth most people don't realize. The goal of money isn't consumption. It's control. Control over your time. Control over your career.
Control over how you respond to life's curveballs. And when both incomes are fully committed, you don't control your life.
Your expenses do.
Your mortgage does.
Your obligations do. Your payroll cycle does. That's not wealth.
That's maintenance mode.
Imagine this instead. Imagine waking up knowing, if one of us needs to step back, we'll be okay. If I hate this job, I can leave. If something unexpected happens, we can absorb it. That feeling.
That's financial power. And power doesn't come from a big income number.
It comes from margin. You don't need to quit your job.
You don't need to move tomorrow. You don't need extreme changes.
You need awareness, then design.
Then discipline. Small structural changes today create massive flexibility later.
Here's the final perspective shift. Most people chase income growth. Few people protect margin growth. Income growth makes you look successful. Margin growth makes you untouchable. And untouchable feels calm.
Now, I want you to do something honest.
Ask yourself, if one income disappeared tomorrow,
Would we adjust?
or would we panic? That answer is your real financial health score.
Not your salary.
Not your house. Not your job title. Your resilience. And if this video challenged how you think about money,
That's the point.
because the system rewards spending.
It really teaches structure.
If you want more conversations like this, deeper, smarter, focused on leverage instead of hype, hit subscribe. On this channel, we don't just talk about making money.
We talk about keeping control of your life.
And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who feels successful on paper, but stretched in reality.
Because sometimes the most powerful financial move
Is redesigning the game you're playing. I'll see you in the next one.